Hey guys and goddesses, welcome back to my channel TheTarative and thank you for stopping by. So this is my first trimester pregnancy update video. I have actually now passed into the second trimester, however I did want to do a video talking through and explaining everything I've experienced from firstly finding out I was pregnant up until the end of the first trimester. So I did find out I was pregnant by taking a home pregnancy test. I did film that experience as well, so I will be leaving the link in the description box down below for those of you who want to go and check that out if you haven't seen it already. But in this video I'll be talking about everything to do with the first trimester, so that's including early pregnancy symptoms, cravings, body changes and also weight gain that I've noticed, whilst also talking about the 12-week scan, and I'll be showing you guys the pictures for the 12-week scan at the end of the video. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it. So a week after taking the home pregnancy test, I did go to my doctors to confirm my pregnancy, and yes, that did involve peeing in another pot and getting my urine tested by my doctor. It did come back positive, which is what I was expecting and hoping for, so that was all good. And whilst I was there, he explained that I needed to make an appointment with the midwife, which is called the booking appointment. That is basically the first point of contact that I would have with the midwife, and that was to happen between 6 and 8 weeks of pregnancy. I can't remember exactly how far along I was when I actually met the midwife, but it would have been within the 6 to 8 week mark. So at that booking appointment, they basically ask you a ton of questions and then give you some advice and talk through the appointments or the other appointments you need within the first trimester, and those appointments included having the 12-week scan and then also a 9-week blood test. So they were the only other 2 appointments I needed to make, and I'll talk about those in a little bit. But in the booking appointment, she asked me a lot of medical history questions, so my medical history, Dan's medical history and our family medical history. Asked me a lot of lifestyle questions such as how much I drink, and by drink she meant alcohol, if I smoke, how much exercise I do, my eating habits, etc, etc. And then also she took my height, my weight and my blood pressure. So my blood pressure was absolutely fine, and the reason why they take your height and weight is so they can calculate your BMI to get an idea of if you're within the normal average range, underweight or overweight. For instance, if you were overweight or underweight, they'd be able to suggest certain things so you can be as healthy as possible throughout your pregnancy, so your baby can grow as healthily as possible. But I was within the normal range. I can't remember the number exactly, but I am about to divulge my weight, and my weight was 11 stone exactly. And the reason why I've divulged that is because at the 12-week scan, they also, after I had the scan, I had another blood test, and then they also weighed me as well, but I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But yes, my starting weight was 11 stone, and I'll talk about any weight gain at the end of the video. So that explains everything with regards to the booking appointment. So at 9 weeks I went along to the nurse and I got my blood taken. I think she took about 3 or 4 little vials of my blood, and again that was absolutely fine, a very smooth process. She was very good, barely felt anything, and that was the test for certain STIs and other things such as the iron count in your blood. There are a few other things, but I can't remember what she said, but everything came back absolutely fine. For instance, if my iron count had been low, then they would have been able to let me know that my iron was low and I need to take iron supplements. But with regards to everything in the blood test, absolutely fine, absolutely healthy, which is what I was expecting and hoping for. So that was very nice and reassuring. I'm now going to talk about the pregnancy symptoms, cravings and body changes that I've noticed or experienced within the first trimester before talking about the 12-week scan and showing you the lovely little scan pictures that we got. But the first thing that I noticed, and this was actually pretty much from me just taking the pregnancy test, I noticed that my boobs were a lot fuller. So the first week or 2 I'd say they weren't necessarily really full, but they were definitely a little bit bigger than usual. But about a week or 2 after taking that pregnancy test, I definitely noticed that they had grown about a cup size or 2 cup sizes, which, to be fair, for someone who's actually naturally got quite small boobs, an extra couple of cup sizes I am not complaining about. In fact, that's actually quite a nice experience to have, a nice pregnancy symptom to experience. I know it's only temporary, but I'm not complaining about the free boob job effect whilst I'm pregnant. Definitely not a bad thing whatsoever. So if anything, that's quite a nice little bonus of being pregnant that I've experienced, and yeah, definitely not complaining whatsoever. Now, actually, that's the only real body change that I have experienced within the first trimester. With regards to the shape of my stomach or anything else, everything pretty much just stayed the same. And yeah, it was basically just my boobs that have gotten bigger. That was the only body change that I noticed within the first trimester. Now, moving on to the next thing that I noticed, and this was actually happened about a week after taking the home pregnancy test and about 2 days after having the doctor confirm I was pregnant, and I remember it vividly. It was a Saturday morning, I had just eaten my breakfast, I'd gone upstairs to do my makeup before having to leave for work, and I threw up. So yes, morning sickness is the second symptom that I've been experiencing, and not so much of a pleasant one. Having bigger boobs, absolutely great, not complaining whatsoever. Being sick every day, not so much fun. But I wasn't sick every day to start with, so I threw up on that Saturday, and then for about a week and a half afterwards I didn't actually throw up again. However, I felt extremely nauseous, and I found for me, and I found throughout actually so far whilst experiencing nausea, that the morning sickness has actually more so been afternoon/evening sickness, and because of that I felt really tired throughout the day. As the day went on, I felt a lot more tired as I just felt really sick all the time. So a week and a half after first being sick, I then started throwing up every day, and that continued throughout all of the first trimester, and it even continued into the second trimester. And I was throwing up usually just once a day, but sometimes I throw up 2 or even 3 times a day. Now, mainly, as I mentioned, that was happening in the evening, so I often found as I got back from work, just got into the house, I'd have to make a dash for the toilet as I'd be spewing up everywhere, and if I wasn't throwing up like directly after getting home, I noticed that it would be either after having dinner or before going to bed. Usually not directly after having dinner, but an hour or so after having dinner, before I was getting ready for bed, I noticed I was throwing up, which again, not very nice. However, even though being sick isn't particularly pleasant, the reason why you do experience nausea, or some people experience nausea and sickness, is because of the pregnancy hormones being relatively high, and that's just your body reacting and responding to that. So even though it wasn't particularly pleasant and isn't particularly pleasant throwing up, I did feel a little bit reassured that my pregnancy hormones were quite nice and high. So if anything, even though it was a bit of a pain, it reassured me throughout the first sort of 14 weeks or so. So it definitely reassured me a little bit. Now, even though I was being sick, I didn't actually experience any heartburn or indigestion, which is really good. I was really thankful for. However, I did notice I got extremely gassy, and by gassy I mean burpy. So before I got pregnant, I used to drink quite a bit of Diet Coke. However, I stopped that before we even tried to get pregnant, and I would notice that after drinking fizzy drinks, that's usually when I would be gassy. The rest of the time, I'm not a very burpy person. Everything seems to go down nicely, which is great. However, after getting pregnant, I was just burping constantly. It's died down now that I'm in the second trimester, but every now and again I'll still have a burpy day. But yes, throughout the first trimester, definitely really gassy. It was as if I had just been drinking or guzzling down fizzy drinks all the time. And as I said, once I was pregnant, I didn't drink and haven't been drinking any fizzy drinks whatsoever. So that is one thing that I noticed. Now, the last thing I'm going to mention before talking about the 12-week scan and showing you guys the cute little 12-week scan pictures is cravings. So a lot of people do get cravings, and really strange cravings, throughout their pregnancy. However, I have to say, within the first trimester, I didn't experience any weird cravings whatsoever. However, I did notice a change in my eating habits, or what I was wanting to eat. So I'm very much a creature of habit. Once I find something I like with regards to food, I'll have that until I'm sick of it. So I have the same breakfast every morning, I have the same lunch every day, and I also generally have a very similar dinner every day as well. So usually my normal eating habits before getting pregnant was that once I found something that I liked and enjoyed for dinner, I'd generally have that at least sort of 3 times during the week, or even 4 times during the week, and then I would have another thing the other few days. So generally quite limited as to what I would eat throughout my dinner. I was a little bit more varied, I would say, for lunch and for breakfast, but again, once I found stuff that I like, I tend to just have the same thing day in and day out until I'm sick of it and move on to the next thing. However, as soon as I got pregnant, dinner-wise, I really struggled to know what I fancied or even wanted. I would have one thing and I really didn't fancy the same thing the next day. So definitely I noticed from being pregnant and from the hormones, it's made me having to be a lot more varied in my diet and dinner. And that's not a bad thing. Obviously, it's good to have a varied diet, but I really did struggle trying to decide what I wanted or trying to find different things that I fancied. And I think part of that also was Not just my hormones being like, oh, you want different things to eat, but because I was throwing up on a daily basis, and often after having dinner, once I'd had something I liked, if I threw it up and it was a really horrible experience throwing it up, I generally didn't fancy that again. So I think not only was it my hormones playing into the fact that I didn't want the same thing every day for dinner, but also the fact that I was throwing up a lot of my dinner, and so therefore it just really put me off that certain food. So they're the things that I've experienced and noticed throughout the first trimester of pregnancy. I will also, after this video, later on in my pregnancy, be doing another update video where you guys will see if anything's changed whatsoever, but that's everything that's happened and been experiencing throughout the first trimester of pregnancy. So lastly, moving on to the 12-week scan. My 12-week scan was actually scheduled for me being 12 weeks and 6 days pregnant, and so we went along to the scan, and I have to say I was actually quite anxious leading up to the scan. I just wanted to make sure everything was fine, and because that was the first scan we were having, they can pick up a few things to see if anything looks unhealthy or looks a little bit wrong with the baby's development, so I definitely was a little bit anxious. However, when I sat down and laid down and they put the gel, which was actually surprisingly warm, I thought the gel that they'd put on my stomach would be quite cold, but it was preheated and it was really, really nice, and yeah, just made me relax a little bit more. And then she started putting the little, I don't know what it is, like the ultrasound scan thing around my stomach, trying to find the little baby, and she found it. And I have to say, seeing Dynamite's baby on the screen just fluttering about, moving about, it was quite active, was such a beautiful moment. I have to say, genuinely one of the happiest moments of my life. I just felt really comfortable, really happy. It was just lovely seeing it move around, and it's such a surreal experience seeing this little thing moving around when I can't feel any of it. And at that point as well, my stomach wasn't any bigger. The only things telling me I was pregnant was that I felt generally a little bit unwell, but looks wise I definitely didn't feel pregnant. But just seeing this little thing move around on the screen, I have to say it was absolutely lovely. It was a really lovely moment. And it was quite nice because our baby was being a little bit awkward, so within the first scan and throughout the scans they like to take certain measurements, and they'd taken most of the measurements. We got to see its brain, we got to see its little arms, its little legs, we got to see, I think there were some black bits on the screen, one of which we could see the heart pumping, and I think we got to see the stomach and maybe even the bladder, I can't remember exactly, but we got to see a few of these like little black bits on the screen. She explained that's the stomach, etc, etc. But they like to take certain measurements, and the last measurement she needed to take was the amount of fluid behind the baby's neck, and the baby just wouldn't get in the right position. But because of that, it was really lovely. She just had to spend a little bit more time waiting for it to get in the right position. So it just meant that Dan and I got to see our little baby move around on the screen for more minutes, which was absolutely fantastic. And because the baby wouldn't get in the right position, the midwife, or the midwife sonographer, did actually make me sort of raise my butt up and shake side to side to try and shake the baby in the right position. And then I had to go and empty my bladder, see if that made a difference. But finally we got all the measurements and everything came back absolutely within the normal range, which was really reassuring to hear. So that was a beautiful moment. It was absolutely lovely, and I'm now going to show you the little pictures that we've got. They're a little bit blurry. The sonographer was hoping to get some clearer pictures, but you can still see the head and the stomach, and you still get an idea of what everything is. So I've only got 3 here, as we did also give some to our family. So I'll just show you this one first. So I'm just covering my details, or I'll just block out my details at the top, but this is the head, that is the profile of the nose, and then that bit's the mouth, and then that is its lovely round stomach. Now this little white bit here, its legs are actually sort of raised up, and so that is what you can see there. So that's one of the pictures. This one's quite a nice one, because again you can see the head, and you can see the little nose, and again the stomach. So they're all very similar, to be fair. This one, again, just very similar. I don't think in these ones you can actually see the little heart. I think that black bit there is the heart, but we did get to see it, so that was quite nice, being able to see the heartbeat. We didn't actually hear the heartbeat, but we got to see it, so again, reassuring, and that was absolutely lovely. And the very cute little pictures, and yeah, it was just a lovely experience. Now the last thing that I'm going to mention before ending this video is straight after having the 12-week scan, I then did go to another part of the hospital and have my blood taken, and that's just a test for certain syndromes. But whilst I was there, she did also weigh me again, and I thought I would have gone up. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I did weigh 11 stone exactly at the booking appointment. Now usually my weight is about 11 stone 3 pounds, 11 stone 5 pounds, and it has been around that for the last year or two. I used to weigh a little bit less, but for the last year or two, that has been sort of my average weight. Now, I was surprised I was 11 stone, however, it had been my wedding not too long ago before me getting weighed, and so therefore I definitely found that I think I lost a couple of pounds. I remember from first trying on the dress to actually on the day it was a little bit looser, but yeah, so I did weigh 11 stone at the booking appointment, and I was surprised to find out, because I thought I'd fluctuate back up to that 11.3, 11.5 point, but I was surprised to find out that actually I hadn't gained any weight whatsoever. I was still exactly 11 stone, so no weight gain whatsoever, which is not unhealthy or not unnormal or unnatural. Within the first sort of 12 weeks, 14 weeks, which is the first trimester, it's very normal to not experience any weight gain or a few pounds of weight gain, and that is quite normal and quite healthy and natural. It's later on in pregnancy that they'd want to generally see you gain a little bit, because that should mean that you're storing the right amount of fat for the baby to then use later on. But yes, so no weight gain whatsoever, everything like that was just the same, so that was not a problem whatsoever. But yes, so that is now explained, or me explaining everything to do with the first trimester. Sorry if I went a little bit off point here or there. I tried to make it as succinct as possible, but I'm now into the second trimester, and there will definitely be some more videos from me in the future. If you do have any questions whatsoever with regards to this video, then please let me know in the comments below. I'll be sure to read them and answer them. If you did enjoy this video, then please let me know by leaving this a thumbs up, and if you aren't already but would like to see more videos from me in the future, then please remember to hit that subscribe button down below, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Bye for now.